Hi, everybody. Today, Brynn and I are going to talk about what it looks like from a user perspective to have Business Central integrated in with the Dynamics CRM. So, Brynn, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for all the inevitable questions I'm going to have about how this works. I really appreciate you taking the time to walk through this with me.
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. So let's just start off with I'm a salesperson and I want to pull up a customer. Let's say a customer calls. What kind of accounting information from Business Central can I see in CRM? And obviously, the whole goal is to avoid having to go to the accounting people or worse, as a salesperson, go into the accounting software, which no one wants that, right?
No, they absolutely do not.
Okay, great. If you don't mind, go ahead and show me what it looks like to pull up a customer.
Sure. So the good news is that there is a lot of data that you can pull in. There's a lot of data that comes in just with the standard Dataverse integration. So most of that is going to be located here in this accounting tab that we put together. But if there is anything that is in Business Central, any like custom tables, custom fields, you also can add those to the integration. So if there's anything specific that you're not seeing in this kind of walkthrough that we're going to do that you would want to preview in the sales side, you could absolutely move that over as well.
That sounds good. You mentioned the Dataverse integration. I know
Yes.
we talked about this in our previous video, but for this video here is probably more for users, not technical
Mhm.
people. So the Dataverse just describes the standard out of the box integration, right?
Yep. Standard out of the box, nothing custom, just like it comes.
And I am kind of curious before we go into the specifics. If I wasn't looking at this accounting tab, how would I know that this record was linked to Business Central? Is it easy to tell?
It is pretty easy. There is a field actually on the summary tab. I believe we have it hidden right now, but there's a linked tab, more or less, and that'll say that it is linked and when the last time that the update was. You also can tell up here in the owner tab, because this record comes from Business Central, that's where it originated. That is the Business Central company that's listed as the owner for this integration.
That's interesting. So will the owner always be the Business Central integration? Like, so typically with Dynamics, as a salesperson, I'm the owner of this account.
Yes, yeah, it won't be. So this is just the default because we started with Business Central and an empty sales environment. We pushed all of our accounting records into our sales environment. So I could change this right now to you, to me, to another sales user, and that's absolutely fine. It's just kind of the standard when we push over from Business Central.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, perfect. So let's go into some of these accounting fields. Like, what kind of stuff can I see? Can I see all the important things like what they ordered, what I've quoted them, products that they purchased, things like that?
Yeah, you can see, well, hopefully what's most important, right? That's why it's the standard integration. But over here on the left-hand side, you can see some of the base fields that get pulled in just out of the box when you do the standard integration. So you can see the customer number, what their current balance is, when the last time this record was modified. So you can see the last time that this record synced with Business Central was at 11:56 today. If they have any outstanding orders, outstanding shipped that haven't been invoiced. You've got some service information, the same details as sales. And then probably the most important bit is right down here, this mainline accounting details. So you've got the total that they owe, and that's of current orders and pending, what their credit limit is, and any overdue amounts. So if they were on credit hold, you would see that as well. This account is not currently on a credit hold, but it does give you kind of that bird's eye information of what's going on with the account, just the basic customer details that would show up in accounting.
So, Bryn, you mentioned that this was the most important data. So it makes me wonder, is there a way to modify these screens? Like, could I put that data up to the top? And I noticed there was some service information. So if I only sold products and didn't sell services, could I hide that information, or is it all locked down?
Yes, you absolutely could. So these are quick view forms. I know that that doesn't mean anything to most of our like sales users, but you can customize how this data displays. So this is actually a custom view just with a couple of tweaks. But yes, you can absolutely control what you see here. If you don't have service or if you don't have product sales, you can hide, show those. Like I said, you could bring in custom fields. So this is totally customizable.
Very cool. Very cool. And on the right-hand side, I see some of the key information that as a seller, I'd really be interested in. So can you just run through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are just some quick subgrid views that we've put on the account form to show a quick list view of all of the different opportunity products, order products that this account has purchased. You can see you've got all of their purchase products here. and then some of the top products. So some of the top most often purchased. So if you're kind of trying to get that bird's eye view of what this account typically is doing, what they're most interested in, you've got these quick little subgrid views that you can take a look at here.
And is there a place to see quotes that I've done for trade research or orders? Where would I go to see those things?
Yes, great question. So quotes, orders, invoices, and product all sync as part of the standard integration. So you'll have all of that information that comes from accounting in the sales system. So if I were looking at, say, like a specific account, like trade research here, I could go to my related tab. And right in the related tab, you can see I've got my quotes. So I'm going to go there first. And I'm just going to go to all because we don't have anything in draft mode currently. But if we have an open quote for trade research, I could open up this quote, make any changes to it. Once it's ready to proceed to the, oh, it is one. Okay, great. Once it's ready to proceed to an order, at that time, it'll also sync back into Business Central so that the accounting team has that order info automatically.
Wow, this is really great because now I don't have to go back to my original quote form or go ask the accounting team to tell me what this customer has quoted, especially if I'm like a lot of our customers obviously are, you have outside sales and inside sales. And so it's great to be able to just go see this information directly without having to go interrupt someone else's day.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the really nice things about sales order, if I open up sales order here as well, it's going to be more important for sales order. So we see the same sales order that we were just looking at the quote for is this office supply order. And one of the great things about the integration is that when all of this loads up, when I'm adding my products here over on the right-hand side, it's actually going to do a check of what my inventory looks like in Business Central. So if I'm selecting a product that, again, these come from Business Central, so your inventory is always up to date. I'm just going to select a product here. Maybe I want a quantity of 3. Go ahead and save and close. When I go back to my order here, I can see right on my product line that of that 3, there are currently 5 on hand. So really good for me to know as a salesperson. If I were exceeding that number, that might be a conversation that I need to have with my customer, definitely accounting side, just to see what my ship to dates and things like that might need to change.
I have a question before you move on. This is all really cool. So what if I wanted to have more room for my product lines? Like if I wanted to put more columns on there, could I make that a separate tab or could I give that grid a little bit more space?
Yeah, you absolutely could. So this is just the standard form. It is a kind of tight spot here for the products. So you could expand this and just have the product subgrid across the whole top bar if you wanted. So you can really give some extra space to product number, product description, product name. Really depends on, how many products you have, how much information you want to show for those different product lines. But absolutely, yeah, this form is entirely customizable as well.
Very cool. I have another related question. Probably
Sure.
starts at the quoting side, but it's also here I notice is the price list. So sometimes we have
Yes.
customers with specific price lists, or we have like bulk price lists for wholesalers versus distributors. Is there a way to control that here? Are
There
these the same
is.
price lists as in Business Central?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So typically when we're dealing with any integration, so if it was D365 Sales and Business Central, any kind of integration, you do want to kind of determine what is the source of ultimate truth when it comes to our records. Because, you could have data in one system that doesn't necessarily match the data in another, and you have to decide which one wins. When it comes to the Business Central and D365 Sales integration, the accounting system will always win. So there are price lists
That's
that you can
fair.
set up. Yeah, it's fair. Accounting should always win in every situation. So you can set up price lists. There are price lists that are in Dynamics 365 Sales. However, when you set up the integration, you are asked to kind of determine who is the ultimate source of truth for these different types of records. And for price lists, it's always going to be Business Central. So if you have multiple price lists in Business Central, different price lists for different types of customers, discounts, things like that, absolutely you can use those in D365 Sales, but they're going to originate from Business Central side.
That is really cool. As you were talking, it made me think of something else. Like with products, inventory, even quotes and orders, is this real-time data or Is it like a week old? Is it 2 months old? Like, how often does the data come over?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So the sync is actually custom as well. So you could set up different intervals for the sync to run. It gets pretty close to real time. The smallest window is about 5 minutes, so it's pretty good. If you've
Yeah.
got like super high volume, you want to make sure that those tables are syncing in pretty constantly. But that's different for every table. So, like our sales orders, we might want to sync more regularly. We probably want to sync more regularly than something like our customers, because we're not adding customers every 5, 10, 15 minutes, most of us, but definitely a higher volume of things like our quotes, orders, and invoices. And we want to make sure that we're passing those over a little bit more often. But those are system jobs that you set up in Business Central to run on a schedule. And then if you ever did need to sync something immediately, so if I said, okay, I don't have the 30 minutes to wait, I absolutely need to sync this record right now, you can run that sync or force that sync from the Business Central side instantly. So I could go ahead and run a sync job right now to update records as well.
I mean, that's in the case of a sales emergency where
Right.
someone
Yeah.
really absolutely needs to know that information right this second.
Yes. Or something like a
Perfect.
new customer, right? So if you have a
Yeah.
new customer that's added and you have an order waiting that you need to put in, many of your business processes are for the accounting side to enter the customer details first and push that customer in. If your sync schedule is set up to run maybe like once a day, you might want to, have that sync run a little bit sooner so that you can get that order, you can get that quote in, you can get that invoice in to get into the hands of the customer before tomorrow.
That is all great information. Thank you. And I'm kind of curious now. I'm going to put on my sales manager or
Sure.
my business owner hat and say, can I control this stuff? So, like, I don't trust my salespeople necessarily to go from quotes to orders. Like, can I have someone in accounting come in and be the only people that can move it from quote to order? Or is the security wide open? Like, can sellers just go in and do whatever the heck they want?
Yeah, that is a good question. So, base the base integration. So, the way that it's set up out of the box, if I were to, so this order currently would not be in Business Central because what the sync is based on right here is the status. So, if you see, if I were to go here and change the status to submitted, at that point, that's when this office supply order is going to sync into the Business Central side. So what you could do is if you're looking to lock down more security and maybe have a kind of a bit of buffer there, security buffer, you could put some security around this field to say the only people who are able to toggle this field to submitted need to have a specific security role that you would set up in the backend.
That makes sense. I'm curious also with this, can you lock down any of these fields? Like, can you make them any of them read only so that the salespeople can just see what's happening and not really change anything?
You can, yeah. So you see small example of that is something like currency, which also the base currency is always going to come from Business Central, but you can. So you could lock down most of these fields. You could lock down a good amount of these fields. You also can define when you're setting up your integration. This is a little more technical for their like average users. When you're setting
Sure.
up the integration, you can define different fields, different tables as either bidirectional, which is going to sync back and forth. If I make a change to trade research, that sync is going to go into Business Central. Or I could say I only want these fields, these tables to be unidirectional. So only update from Business Central into sales. If I had Peter sales user come in here and make a bunch of changes to the trade research file, I might not want those to sync back into Business Central, so I could just disable that side of the sync. So there's a couple different options that you have there, either making things read only, or you can update that record in sales, but that change is not going to flow back into Business Central.
If I'm hearing you correctly, then I'm guessing that there's a lot of variety here. There's a lot of flexibility, and it probably is, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's probably some best practices we would recommend, but then we have some variety that if a customer has specific needs, we could help them configure it to meet their needs. Probably not every last option under the sun, but quite a little bit of flexibility from what I've heard.
Yeah, there are definitely some important best practices. One of those probably is not having every change that we make to every table flow from sales into Business Central. Because again, our accounting system is something that we always want to make sure is clean, up to date, and frequently checked, right? So those are some important best practices. Every business is different, so that's one of the reasons that this Dataverse integration, the out-of-the-box integration, is really flexible. You can customize a lot of the different pieces, from security to what flows over to what you see on the screens. So it's very flexible. But yeah, there are definitely some important best practices there that you just tweak a little bit for everybody.
I like how you kind of basically said we don't want the salespeople to push bad data into accounting. But also true though is a lot of times when we come into an environment, I know with they're using accounting as a sales tools along with
Right.
spreadsheets and Outlook, and then they get CRM and integrate it. What we see happening is a lot of that data that used to be in the accounting system starts to not be in the accounting system. Like all the prospects that never bought anything, like those, they really have no business being in the accounting software. So I think that's also what you're seeing is just leave those in the CRM tool and then only sync up the stuff that's really relevant to be in the accounting software.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing against salespeople. There's different
I don't feel
it's
attacked.
it's nice to keep the data separate a bit, because accounting is using data, or that back end, you folks in your back end are using that data differently than the salespeople are. So it's just about making the data that's most relevant and most important to each one of those groups what's on hand, so that they can like see and interact with it the best way possible.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I really have just a few basic questions, and if we need to do another pass at this, I would encourage anybody that's watching who has questions after we're done to put the questions in the chat below, or hook up with Brynn or I on LinkedIn and ask us questions, and we'll do a second pass of this. But one big question that I have is sometimes I'll get customers calling me and saying, "Hey, Peter, can we talk about order number 400?" Is there a place to see all orders across all customers, or do I have to go into the customer record?
Great question. You absolutely do not have to go into the customer record. We started here so we could just see all of the records that are associated with our friends at Trey Research. But if you look over here on the left-hand navigation pane, all of those tables, so they're called tables, these groups of different types. So we've got our products, our orders, our invoices. If I click on one of these, click on my orders, this is every order that came in from Business Central or that I've created here on the sales side. You can see all of the different customers that they're associated with, what those total amounts are when they were created. I can also report on this data in my dashboards. So yes, you absolutely can see that for all of those different tables.
Very cool. And I see two key things as a Dynamics user I could use. I've got the filter, so I could probably type in the order number, like if I knew their order number, or on the left-hand side, I see that view drop down. So I could probably have set up certain views, like all my orders that are associated with my customers, or my orders that have been out there for more than a month and haven't been fulfilled yet, things like that, just so I can kind of keep track of what's going on with my customers and my prospects.
Yes, absolutely. The views are really nice. You can create custom views that are just for yourself. So a view that would only be useful to me, Brynn, I could set that up. Or you could set up standard views for everybody across your organization in the back end as well. So that's what these are. These are all the standard out-of-the-box views just for people to have a kind of bird's eye view of what's going on. My orders, all orders, what's active. And you can use any of these views to build on some reporting as well in your dashboards.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I know we have a video on our channel about views. So anybody who hasn't yet, maybe take a moment to subscribe to our channel, and you can check out these other videos. We're going to be doing some more of these videos. Like I said, if you have questions about how the integration works, or if you have a specific question about your environment, hit up either Brynn or I on LinkedIn. We'll record it. We'll make a video for you in the coming weeks, months. But Brynn, this was really helpful. I appreciate it. And do you have anything else you want to add about the integration that you like a favorite feature maybe or something?
Yeah, I think my favorite feature is probably the ability to see your invoices. I know we didn't talk about this one much, so just
Yeah.
before, you're also able to get your invoices. So this is really nice. Again, I don't think we're getting into dashboards a whole lot today, but just as a reporting tool, it's really nice to, in your sales side, to be able to see your actual sales data. So all of my sales amounts, like what are my commissions looking like for this month? I don't have to go into accounting. I don't have to ask, a sales manager. I don't have to ask accounting. I can see all that information actually just in my sales side. So it gives me an idea of like, well, what am I looking to close by the end of the week, the month? What do I have open? So that is really nice to be able to see all of your actual posted invoices, invoice data in your sales side as well.
Yeah, I could see where this also could be really cool if I'm reading it right, that I could say things like, give me all my customers who bought something last year but hasn't they haven't bought anything this
Yes.
year. So I could like target those customers and reach out to them, make sure that they still are in business, make sure that we have an opportunity with them, make sure that we're front and center for their needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all of your invoice details are here. So you can actually open up the invoice records, see what folks were purchasing, when these last purchases were. So you're right. If I know that I had, 3 more orders at this time last year with Trade Research, then definitely something that I want to look into to boost those sales for this year as well.
This is really great. I hope Trade Research keeps on
Yeah.
sending us business.
Yeah, they're definitely my top customer. It looks like from checking out our sales today. Very popular internally.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is good for now, and we'll have another video in the future about this, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Brynn. And thank you all for watching. Hope you got something out of this. Hit the subscribe button. We'll talk to you next time.